The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
The two disciples recounted what had taken place on the way and how Jesus was made known to them in the breaking of bread. While they were still speaking about this, he stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." But they were startled and terrified and thought that they were seeing a ghost. Then he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do questions arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, because a ghost does not have flesh and bones as you can see I have." And as he said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. While they were still incredulous for joy and were amazed, he asked them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of baked fish. He took it and ate it in front of them. He said to them, "These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses and in the prophets and Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the Scriptures. And he said to them, "Thus it is written that the Christ would suffer and rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance for the forgiveness of sins would be preached in his name to all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things." The Gospel of the Lord. In this weekend's readings, we see three levels of the way in which people know Jesus. In the Acts of the Apostles, Peter said to the people, "I know, brothers and sisters, that you acted out of ignorance." The people were familiar with Jesus. Many may have seen him, maybe even met him. They knew where he was from, heard what he had to say, but they didn't take their encounter with him any further than that. In the first letter of John, we heard of a community that believed in Jesus, but struggled to build up the friendship. They were learning more about what all Jesus taught and how he fulfilled all that God had said through the prophets, but they weren't ready to totally trust him yet. And rather than conform to Jesus' words, they tried to conform Jesus to their own ideas. But in the gospel reading, we saw the disciples who had met him, learned about him, accepted him, and then trusted him. Jesus opened their minds to understand better the Scriptures, and they welcomed the knowledge rather than ignore, attempt to change, or try to manipulate it. And therefore, they were the ones who could rejoice in his resurrection. The life of Christian faith can never be reduced to simply running into Jesus at some point, making a brief acquaintance with him, and then moving on. It's about coming to know him deeply and intimately, and about trusting him. This level of friendship with Christ allows for unlimited growth. We never get tired of it because, like any truly good friend, we never get tired of him. This is why the sacrament of the Holy Eucharist is ongoing. Not only do we not get tired of this encounter with Jesus, the more often we receive him, the more we desire to receive him. This is why the Scriptures are read over and over again, because even though his word is unchanging, we in our lives are constantly changing. And what we need to hear God speak changes with our lives. And this is why we're encouraged to spend time with Jesus in prayer, and especially when we can, to adore him in the Eucharist. We spend time with friends, not just to get to know them better, but sometimes to simply enjoy being with the one whom we have come to know. His message is clear to his friends. Open our minds to know him, open our hearts to love him, and then to open up our daily planners in order to choose him.